Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner into another Waking the Dragon segment. Today I'm going to be discussing basically the two most played versions of the Disaster Dragon at this point in the format. Over here we've got Standard Disaster, over here we've got Anti-Meta Disaster, and in the center we've got the Triforce, Dino Rabbit, Windups, and Insectors. This is our Tier 1. Everything else, Dark World, Samurai, Gladiator Beasts, Karakuri, Stun, all those would be Tier 2. And then you've got your Tier 3s, such as Batterymen and Crystal Beasts. Anyway, so both decks I do feel are very good for this format. Obviously one is more suited for Tier 1, whereas one is just better suited for everything, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. And yeah, they're good at what they do. They've got their drawbacks, of course, and I will mention those. But ultimately, I do feel that you can run either one and do well. It's just there are some things I want to note that you guys should be aware of. So first up, we've got Standard Disaster Dragon. It's pure dragon, it's very consistent, and it can run Light and Darkness Dragon, who is a real beast for people to get around, as he'll force out at least 1 or 2 negates before dying and then getting you back a Darkness Metal, Totem Dragon, Koa'ki Drago, blah 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 blah. Light and Darkness Dragon just gets you back from your grave or what you need for the situation. Because it runs Mass Dragon, you can search through your deck for all kinds of options. Totem Dragon for a big guy, Divine Dragon Apocalypse to recycle your Koa'ki Drago that got hit by Dark Hole, or a Light and Darkness Dragon in the late game. And you can easily drop Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, who is hands down the most underrated boss monster in the game. My own bias for dragons aside, it's just an easy summon 2000 beater that just brings more monsters onto the field. People don't really know how to get around that at first. The initial instinct is to hit it with Solemn Warning. Afterwards, you use Wyvern or Apocalypse or Call of the Haunted to bring him back to the field and just proceed to make them pay even more. Now, admittedly, this deck is also quite slow. You're playing the grind out game where you're trying to get the opponent to lower their tempo to the point where you and them are going at it at the same speed, in which you'll then win through your superior beat sticks. Now, let's talk about Anti-Meta Disaster. This is a specialized version of the deck made to counter, obviously, the meta. And it does so by foregoing some cards such as Totem Dragon and in some cases Mass Dragon in order to run in more stun monsters such as Thunder King Ryo, Effect Veiler, and Max C, while also running non-dragons in its extra deck such as Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon because you run Cyber Dragon in your side. The deck is quite good at what it wants to do. However, I've also noticed that there are times where you will have those really weird hands of not being able to do anything because you have a hand trap but no monster, or a monster but no backward to protect it. And I've also noticed that while it is great against the Triforce, if you go up against anything down below it, you're going to have more difficulty than Standard would because you don't have the flexibility to adjust in Game 1. Furthermore, this deck is completely all in on the amount of control it applies. If you're going up against something where your stun monsters do absolutely nothing against, you're going to have problems. And if your opponent is able to break your field setup, again, you're going to have problems. Furthermore, I'm not liking the idea of dropping Max C dropping Mass Dragon from the deck for something like Max C. I mean, yes, Insectors can blow up Mass Dragon, and it sucks when you lose them to monster removal. But if you're playing at a high tables event or on Dueling Network, chances are you're going to be running Phoenix Chains in your deck. And between Effect Veiler and Phoenix Chain, you're going to make it very difficult for Insectors to do any of their stuff. And that's why I feel that Max C is better suited for your side deck, and Mass Dragon can be run in its place, as even in Anti-Meta Disaster, Mass Dragon still puts in work. He provides you field presence, gets it to your tuner monster, Delta Flyer, and he gets you to Exploder Dragon for monster removal. Furthermore, Max C in general, I'm not really liking this card as a main deck choice, at least when it comes to dealing with the Triforce. Because when you look at it, he's meh against Rabbit, terrible against Insectors, and he's only good against Windups. So one deck out of the Triforce, Max C is useful on. I don't know about you guys, but I would not want to run a card in my deck that's only good against one matchup. Furthermore, it's a matchup that people are starting to play less and less due to the general expense of the deck. I mean, this is also getting pretty expensive too. But still, I'm thinking you're better off moving this into your side for Master Dragon than you bring in Maxi against those decks that special summon a whole lot. Because let's face it, with plants killed by the Banhammer and agents being very difficult to play, the amount of decks that do all kinds of trigger special summons, like all the stuff that's not inherent, they've kind of gone down. Still, if you're going to an event where you're going to be seeing a whole bunch of just these guys, like a YCS, so on and so on, then Anti-Meta Disaster would be a good pick. But if you want the flexibility of being able to handle all kinds of matchups, not just the Tier 1, but the Tier 2 and the Rogues, then go with Standard. If anyone is going to YCS Long Beach, or just any YCS in the coming weeks and months, please, after your event, private message me. Tell me what you ran and how it did. The more information we can get from Dragon players going to these events, the easier it becomes for the Dragon community as a whole to come up with means of handling the changes in the meta. Now, I do admit, in a couple months, we're going to be having another shift in the meta when Galactic Overlord comes out and Hieroglyphs are released into the TCG. As for what I think how the Hieroglyphs are going to do in the TCG, that is another video in itself, because I've got a lot to say about Hieroglyphs. But, all in all, these are your two choices for Disaster Dragon in this format. If you're trying to build on the budget, perfectly honest, I think it's going to be a bit difficult. This guy is getting very pricey. This guy is getting pricey. Wyvern's going for $10 a pop right now. I counted out the cost of like a budget, I just did like a quick tally of how much it would cost to build just the monster line of Disaster Dragon. And if you go on lowest rarity, you're still spending about $100+. Yeah, this isn't a budget deck anymore, guys. Neither is this version, especially this version. But if you can't get your hands on Maxi, it's alright. You just want your Veilers and your Thunder Kings and like other disruption cards. So I kind of hope that this helps you guys get a general idea of what you want to do with your decks, and just give you guys my opinion on how to handle the deck, at least in the next couple months. Thank you all for watching. Until the next time, take care.